A defining aspect of many superheroes is their rogue gallery, but what is a hero without a slew of villains to challenge them? In the case of Danny Phantom, Danny has faced his fair share of foes, from the foreboding king of old ghost pariah Doc to... Beware! Well, that guy. But in this video, I'll be going over who I believe are the top 10 villains from Danny Phantom. The ranking of this list consists of 3 primary factors. First, their memorability. For what is a villain without leaving a lasting impact on the audience and having a strong personality? Second, how engaging is their dynamic with Danny? Part of the fun of any good hero-villain relationship is seeing how they bounce off each other. And third, how deadly are they as a threat to Danny? Who are the villains that Danny can easily deal with, and who are the ones that push him to his limits? With that criteria out of the way, it's time to get this video started.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone is a beat.
Riding into last place is troublemaking biker and source of bad luck, Johnny Doteen. Johnny is a different type of villain from everyone else on this list, since instead of craving for power or revenge or world conquest, he's just a guy who wants to have fun in the human world with his girlfriend Kitty. The problem is that in his debut episode, he went after Danny's sister Jazz to use her as an anchor so that Kitty could join him in the human realm. While this does showcase how much he loves Kitty, it also showcases how he isn't above using people to accomplish his desires. As a result, this leads to him butting heads with Danny in the episode. The main source of Johnny's power comes from a dark spectral known as Shadow, who obeys Johnny's command as he can create bad luck by phasing through any object and having it break apart. In Johnny's battles against Danny, it's Shadow who tends to do most of the fighting, with him being able to give Danny a run for his money due to his super strength. Though all it takes is a big enough source of light for Danny to take care of him. Technically, Shadow is a separate character, but since he's attached to the hip with Johnny, he's an exception to the list. Now, an interesting thing to note is that after Johnny's initial episode, his relationship with Danny became less antagonistic, with them forming a frenemy dynamic with each other. Future confrontations tended to have Danny caught in the crosshairs of Johnny's and Kitty's relationship drama, with Danny either helping the two get back together or Johnny picking a fight with him just to blow off some steam. While there are stronger and more threatening villains I could have replaced Johnny with for this spot on the list, I chose him due to having a unique dynamic with Danny, with him being more of a nuisance than an actual villain. Though it is funny how while Danny's relationship with Johnny becomes more chill, he and Shadow still butt heads.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone is a beat.
That's it, baby. Say my name.
Embo! Rocking onto the list is a punk rock star of the Ghost Zone, Ember-McLean. Ember is one of the most popular characters within the fandom, with there being mountains of fan art and cosplays dedicated to her. Though it's no surprise she's so popular, since her stylish design and musical motif led to her being the fictional crush and gay awakening for many viewers. Ember is an anti-adored villain who rebels against adults, with her wanting to be adored and remembered by the entire world. To accomplish this, she hypnotizes the masses with mesmerizing music in which the more they cheer for her, the more powerful she becomes. But her guitar isn't just for shredding and hypnotizing, as she can use it as a melee weapon or use it to shoot a variety of long-range attacks such as sonic waves, flames, and a giant fist, just to name a few. Ember is one of Danny's quippier foes, with her tossing out just as many insults as Danny, which makes for a fun dynamic. But while on the surface Ember may seem like a cocky villain who just craves fame and power, the lyrics of her iconic song You Will Remember reveal the tragedy of her character. When she was human, she was someone whose life was miserable, with it only being made worse when her crush ended up ghosting her. It seems like all she ever wanted was for someone to remember her, with this desire being so strong that it would stick with her after tragically dying in a fire. While the show never explored any of this, the song adds a level of depth to her character and even makes her sympathetic. Ember may not have gotten many appearances in the show, but she became a showstopper in the fandom.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone in the beat.
One of the most annoying things to put up with are bratty little kids who enjoy causing absolute hell. So imagine how much more annoying it would be for that kid to be a ghost. Cut to Youngblood, Danny's most pint-sized and bratty foe. Youngblood's powers seem to be based on how kids will fixate on whatever thing they think is cool, with his powers becoming a reflection of that. So when he dresses up as a pirate, he'll have pirate-related powers like morphing his hand into a sword and shooting energy blasts from his peg leg. But when he's a cowboy, he'll have cowboy-related powers such as using a lasso or shooting razor-sharp spurs from his cowboy boots. Now, despite Youngblood's diminutive size and childish personality, he's not only proven to be a challenge for Danny, but is also one of the few villains who has managed to truly get under his skin. When getting revenge on Danny after his first defeat, he torments Danny by making him come off as insane to his family, since Danny will be insisting that they're being attacked by Youngblood, but none of them can see him. This is due to Youngblood's special ability of only being able to be seen by the young. But when Danny managed to get the upper hand against him, he took immense joy in getting payback for the hell that Youngblood put him through.
Wanna play with the big kid's young butt? Having fun yet?
The fact that Youngblood managed to push him this hard says a lot about the challenge he proved to be. Youngblood is one of the more underrated villains of the show, as while he may not be the most powerful, he could still be a menace nonetheless.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone in the beat.
I'm a cop, and you will respect my authority.
Yeah, right.
Declaring himself as the self-appointed warden of the Ghost Zone, Walker is one of Danny's more clever villains. Rather than just relying on brute power, he uses his tactical mind and his command over his ghost guards and prisoners to cause problems for Danny. Walker is a ruthless villain who's a stickler for the rules, but it's apparent that all the rules that he enforces are nothing more than an effort to push his will onto others. He claims that he wants to keep order in the Ghost Zone when it's apparent that all he wants is control. This made him not only an enemy to Danny, but other ghosts as well, as he locked up many of Danny's foes due to them breaking his made up rules. But when Danny would later work with them so that they could all break out, it led to Walker having a personal vendetta towards Danny. And what's crazy is that Walker did succeed in getting his revenge. Due to setting his prisoners free, he decides to turn Amity Park into Danny's prison by turning the citizens against Danny Phantom and making them believe that he's a threat to be feared. This would have lasting consequences on Danny's alter ego reputation until he managed to prove himself to the town that he was a hero. Walker managed to show Danny that the long arm of the law reaches beyond even death.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone in the beat.
Mad scientists are one of my favorite types of villains, as their machinations for world conquest while loudly ranting about their plans make them fun to watch. So it's only fitting that Technus would be on the list. Declaring himself as the master of technology, Technus perfectly embodies what it means to be a mad scientist between the Albert Einstein hair, the lab coat, talking in a loud exaggerated manner, and being a complete egomaniac. But what's especially fun about him is how he had no interest in world conquest until Danny put that idea in his head.
You're not going to use the technology in this lab to take over the world!
What? That's a great idea!
It's pretty hilarious that Danny accidentally created one of his most dangerous foes, as Technus' control over technology makes him a deadly threat. With his powers, he's able to construct giant robots, take control of any technological device, and travel through both electronics and the internet. Technus is also one of the funniest villains, with his dynamic with Danny always being entertaining to watch, as Danny is just constantly annoyed by Technus' loud declarations. He also tends to say very outdated lingo in order to sound cool, only to have the opposite effect.
I I, Technus, am hip and funky fresh!
But along with his mastery of technology, he can also be pretty strategic, such as the time he played matchmaker between Danny and Valerie so that Danny would be out of his hair. Honestly, the only thing that I dislike about Technus is his self-proclaimed upgrade of his appearance. A downgrade is a more accurate description, since now he looks less like a mad scientist and more like a hipster trying to look cool. Though given how out of date Technus is, I suppose that checks out.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone in the beat.
A common thing that tends to be said when it comes to villains is that every villain is a hero of their own story. But while that tends to be ironic given how those villains tend to be horrible people, this quote is actually pretty fitting for Valerie Gray. Valerie started off as your typical rich, popular mean girl who thought she was better than everyone else, only to lose her wealth and social standing due to Danny Phantom accidentally costing her father his job. With her now developing a hatred for ghosts along with being supplied ghost weapons by Danny's archfoe Vlad Plasmius, she would end up becoming a constant thorn in Danny's side. Valerie is one of the best characters in the show, and it's interesting to watch how she grows both as a skilled ghost hunter and as a person. While she may be a villain for Danny Phantom, we see her become a better person through how her relationship evolves with Danny Fenton. The two go from being unable to stand each other to later becoming friends with even a romance between the two. This ends up adding some fun drama to their relationship since Danny wants to date someone who tries to kill his alter ego on a regular basis. She's also a villain who serves as a parallel to Danny, as she's also a teenage ghost hunter who balances her personal life and ghost hunting duties with us seeing how the latter affects the former. She has to get a job for her to go to college, want to help out her dad financially, and even ends her romance with Danny since she realized she couldn't date him and be a ghost hunter. Valerie made for a perfect foe for Danny due to the complexities of their relationship, and it's a shame that the show never utilized this to its full potential. But at the very least, we still got a great character and antagonist out of this. Also, hot take, but her original ghost hunting suit was way better than the one she got from Technus. I swear, between his own upgraded design and the one he gave to Valerie, the dude has no taste in fashion.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone in the beat.
And this is supposed to help me how?
We're gonna help you overcome your fear of being called a baby.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
Penelope Spectra is one of the most sadistic characters in the show, as she's a narcissistic villain who gleefully feeds upon the insecurities and misery of teenagers for the sole purpose of making herself young and beautiful. She's basically what you would get if you combine Mother Gothel from Tangled with Queen Chrysalis from My Little Pony. Her debut episode highlights how manipulative she is, as it shows her gaslighting Danny and the other students of Casper High into feeling insecure about themselves by planting seeds of doubts into their mind under the guise of advice. She's willing to go to any lengths to maintain her youth, such as when she attempted to kill Danny's sister in front of the entire school just so she could feed off the misery that would follow. While many of the villains in this show aren't inherently above killing, most of them don't show Penelope's gleeful pleasure in the act, nor do they attack humans for such superficial reasons. This makes Penelope stand out as one of the most truly evil ghosts. She's a perfect villain for someone like Danny, since due to his own insecurities, he needs to overcome her mind game while also still dealing with the physical threat she proves herself to be. She's a villain who should have shown up more, as her unhinged sadism and being unapologetically evil made her a blast to watch.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone in the beat.
Known throughout the Ghost Zone as its greatest hunter, it's only fitting that Skulker would be in the top 3. A diminutive blob-shaped ghost who wears a high-tech battlesuit equipped with weapons to hunt the wearers of ghosts, he would set his eyes upon Danny due to being half human and half ghost, with him being one of Danny's most frequent foes. Skulker is a boisterous and prideful villain who enjoys the thrill of the hunt, with him living up to his reputation. While he can be the butt of the joke on occasion, he still proves himself as one of Danny's most deadly enemies, as he has managed to successfully get the drop on him several times. But as the series goes on, Danny and Skulker's dynamic slowly begin to shift in several ways. Skulker goes from someone who used to intimidate Danny to someone he'll now constantly sass due to his own growth as a fighter. And while Skulker still seeks to mount Danny's head on his wall, it does feel like he develops respect for Danny due to being such a worthy foe. Their banter with each other is also fun to watch, as well as rare moments when the two put their differences aside and work together. If it wasn't for the characters that exist at number 2 and number 1, Skulker would have been at the top of this list.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone he'll beat.
Among the many enemies a hero fights, the arch enemy is the most iconic of them all. They're the ones who are meant to challenge the hero differently from any other adversary, with them having a more personal relationship with the hero or serving as a dark reflection of them. Spiderman has Green Goblin, Batman has a Joker, and Danny Phantom has Vlad Plasmius. A former friend of Danny's parents, he became the first ghost-human hybrid due to a lab accident caused by Jack when working with them on a prototype ghost portal. The incident left him hospitalized and would lead to him cutting contact with the two for 20 years, in which he would use his newfound abilities to obtain wealth and power, with him later trying to get revenge on Jack. In a way, Vlad is a combination of some of Danny's best villains. He has the scientific mind of Technus, is a master manipulator like Penelope, and has Skulker's prideful arrogance. Yet thrown into the mix is how incredibly immature and petty he can be. Seeing Vlad constantly mock Danny and not viewing him as a serious threat is hilarious, and it makes the dynamic all the more entertaining.
Ooh, the scary eyes.
But for as comedically evil as he can be, he has plenty of moments that highlights his cruelty and how threatening he is as a villain. The biggest instance is how after failing multiple times to convince Danny to become his son, he was willing to kill him in order to create a clone that would serve that purpose. Vlad checks all the boxes on what makes for a perfect arch nemesis and foil. Whereas Danny is a reckless hothead but uses his powers to help people, Vlad is a composed intellectual who uses his powers only to help himself. He provides a unique challenge for Danny, as he's a foe who not only possesses the same powers as Danny, but also powers that Danny himself has yet to unlock. Danny is essentially fighting a stronger version of himself who has had a longer time to master their powers, which leads to Danny having to fight smarter instead of harder. Yet for all of Vlad's cruelty and eccentricities, the center of his character revolves around the desire to be loved. While he has all the power and money that he could ever want, it doesn't fill the empty void in his heart. It's why he's so obsessed with trying to make Danny become his son and attempt to steal Maddie away from Jack. While it doesn't excuse his actions, it does add a level of depth to the character that the graphic novel A Glitch in Time would proceed to explore more so. Vlad is not only one of the best villains of the show, but he's also one of the best characters. But while Vlad is Danny's arch enemy, he's not the ultimate enemy of Danny's rogue gallery. Sidney Poindexter, a nerdy ghost from the 1950s who was bullied in his previous life and now uses his abilities as a ghost to defend those who are bullied. He ended up clashing heads with Danny due to mistaking him as a bully, with him temporarily taking control of Danny's body. Desiree, a wish-granting genie ghost who grants people's deepest desires. Her characterization between her two major episodes is inconsistent, and she's pretty easy to defeat since Danny just needs to wish for her to be defeated, but I love her concept and design. A Mofo, a shape-shifting ghost that enjoys pulling pranks and causing mayhem. Not an outright villain, but of all the new foes Danny dealt with in Season 3, he was the only one who had a personality and was entertaining to watch. Fright Night, the spirit of Halloween and servant to Pariah Dark. He has one of the coolest designs in the show, with him having a sword that allows him to send people to a dimension where they experience their greatest fears. Pariah Dark, the king of all ghosts and one of the strongest foes Danny has ever fought. I personally don't find him to be all that intimidating, and he's pretty bland in terms of personality, but he's still worth mentioning given that he's a main antagonist of one of the best episodes of the series.
Unleashing all the freaks onto his hometown streets. Now everyone is beat.
Sometimes a hero's greatest enemy can be themselves, but for Danny Phantom, they chose to take that phrase literally with a villain that the show itself proclaimed as the ultimate enemy, Dark Danny. Coming from an alternate timeline, this is a version of Danny who lived the same life as the main version up until he lost his family and friends in an explosion. With nowhere else to go, he turns to Vlad and asks him to make the pain he feels go away by separating his ghost half from his human half. Yet this leads to disaster, as Danny's ghost half is now a vengeful spectral who proceeds to whip out Vlad's ghost half and merge with him. Through the combination of Danny's anger and Vlad's evil, Dark Danny was born, with him committing 2,000 acts of evil for the next 10 years. Dark Danny is regarded by many in the fandom as the best villain of the entire series, and it's easy to see why. Along with his origin being incredibly compelling, he's got a sick design and is just a blast to watch as he takes joy in the evilness that he commits. But what sells the character is the amazing voice performance by Eric Roberts as he delivers his lines phenomenally.
What kind of parents are you anyway? The world's leading ghost experts, and you can't figure out that your own son was half ghost.
Dark Danny challenges Danny in many of the same ways that Vlad did, yet this relationship is even more personal since he wants to make sure that Danny experienced the same tragedy that he went through so that his creation can be ensured. Now while it's easy to assume that the character is pretty surface level as he seemingly causes destruction just because he can, we see through his interaction with several characters that there's more to Dark Danny than meets the eye. He contemplates sparing Valerie life due to their history before deciding against it. We see him muse over the fact that if he still had his humanity, seeing Sam and Tucker again would be a touching reunion, and he even admits that in his Rico moments, he misses Tucker's sense of humor. All these moments serves as a reminder that despite being an evil future version of Danny, he's still Danny. But because he's so broken from losing everyone he cared about, all he can do is acknowledge how he should be feeling or acting. These aspects of his character would be explored even more in depth when he made his triumphant return in A Glitch in Time. With the book revealing that ghosts are the emotional embodiments of who they were when they were human, it contextualizes so much about Dark Danny. He wasn't committing evil out of glee, but was instead being driven by the negative emotions of both Danny and Vlad. And while the show just waved off Vlad's ghost half as being all his evilness, the book elaborates on it by explaining how it's actually Vlad's desire for power, control, and the thing he craves most, love. When you combine that with all the anger and sorrow that Danny's ghost half represent, it's no wonder Dark Danny turned out the way he did. For all his claims about transcending human emotions in the book, he's literally nothing but emotion, with this being even more evident when he breaks down and remarks how it's unfair that Danny got to have his happy ending whereas he lost everything. Dark Danny was already a phenomenal villain, but the graphic novel elevated his character on a whole other level while also reminding us that for all his bravado and cruelty, he's a character who is mourning over the life that he lost. And those are the top 10 villains of Danny Phantom. Let me know your top 10 in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you'll be notified when I make a new video. Until next time, catch you later.